BIC podcast number 102. We're back with the regular crew here. Two of us are back from the Toronto Fall Expo 2024 edition. Basically, this episode is going to be pretty much dominated by that. But we're going to touch on a couple little things. And it is, yes, it is Mayo Monday. I know, it's very exciting. It is Mayo Monday. So that already has taken us to a great place. But then from there, we're going to talk about Expo. We'll give some stories. We'll talk about a couple different things. We'll share a couple of items we picked up. So we'll definitely do that. And then where the conversation I think will open up for everybody, Brandon included, will be that we will touch on some themes that have definitely come up in recent card shows, because Brandon's been at Chantilly show and has also been at National. There's been a bunch of different shows. There were some themes that definitely I picked up on this particular show. And then also we had different approaches to how we decided to take on the Expo this time around. And I want to talk a little bit about that and also chat on some of the folks that I got a chance to speak to, because that is definitely part of the card show, in its case, Expo experience. So we'll touch on that and more on this episode of the BIC podcast. All right, under the gazing, watchful eye of Brett Favre, let's do this episode here. Now, this week we're going to give a little pause on the silly card of the week. We will acknowledge last week's voting, so the official voting has been tallied. We have all the votes this time around. And this time around, hashtag maturity again, Eric's choice was the winner with 74% of the popular vote. He did go lowbrow, but nonetheless, the people have spoken, and this is what they wanted. It says a lot about the people, though. I gotta say, like, the judgment is strong. There are some questions here.
And and I didn't go lowbrow. I did not go.
Did?
No, hold on. I didn't go lowbrow.
You went below the belt without a doubt.
No, I did not go lowbrow. I went Brandon. I went Brandon level. Okay, he wanted to bring heat. Right, and bring this type of immaturity contest. I was like, all right, you want to rock? Let's rock.
Can we explain one thing, though? Because my card actually didn't say what people perceived it saying, whereas your card actually said what it said. So there was some differences there. Mine was more about the perception of the fabric and coloring. Yours literally was embroidered to say that.
You brought it to the line. I kicked it over the edge.
Oh, you did. That was without a question.
I have another
lost with Troy Dance, so like nothing surprises me anymore.
I have another one in the chamber, ready to fire.
So we will come back to it because we've got a lot of ground to cover this week. So we're gonna but we will be back with another example next week. I have one that we could have used, but also I didn't want to rush us because we're going to be talking about a lot about Expo stuff. So we'll come back to it. So hopefully you folks enjoyed that one. And I'm also going to give credit here to AMG Collectibles YouTube channel, and amgcollectibles.ca, who were very nice to us. And I'm glad that Eric got in his shots at Brandon because he slowly ran out of people to hate on. Because if he hates on someone, and we're going to get to that story shortly, if he hates on someone, he's an ungrateful swine. Hashtag ungrateful swine is Eric. So I suspect he's going to have some very nice things to say. I think he's going to have some very nice things to say, or else.
I have been put in a predicament.
You have. The predicament is you better speak right. You better mind your P's and Q's there, Eric. Otherwise, there are going to be some problems, some consequences and repercussions.
I got to mind my B's and H's.
So we'll get to that story here shortly, but let's touch on a couple of general themes. So like I said, we'll bring back the silly card of the week next week. I promise we'll have it back, and we'll be ready to go once again, and we'll put up another community post when that has thumbs up. I do want to thank AMG because not only are they supporters of the channel and supporters of the podcast, in addition to that, obviously we got a chance to hang out a little bit with the AMG folks. That we also got a chance to hang out with them at dinner. Brad and Sherry, as always, tremendous hosts. Brad and Sherry Sherry is also a great host for me because I spent a fair bit of time popping in and out of the AMG booth, hanging out with Steve, the collector, the scallops collector, the people, Sherry as well, and everybody else that was working there during that. And all the East Coast folks were great folks to hang out with. Great time hanging with them. Some of the stories will not be repeated. It is for the betterment of all, but some of the stories will be, and those ones we'll touch on where we can here. So thanks to everybody, and thank you to AMG for supporting the podcast and the channel.
Yeah, due to legal concerns, we can't talk about everything.
Not everything, no. But we can probably give you good, 60, 65% of it. So that part's probably fine. We'll be okay on that one. Absolutely. So let's touch on this. First, let me start off high level. I will say it was the biggest expo in terms of square footage ever. With the halls they used was 200,000 square feet. Now, obviously, if you compare it to something like the last National, I think was like 500, 600,000 square feet, which is obviously massive. The National is the physically largest show. But in terms of second to that, it's right up there because in terms of square footage, it's one of the bigger shows, number of dealers, variety of dealers. You are going to be hockey heavy, but as the years go by and some of the younger guys come in, they're bringing in some basketball. We definitely had some non-sport. The CSC section, which they had a section over there focused on the Pokemans. So we had some of that too. So there was definitely representation of all of these things covered in addition to a heavy dose of hockey. But guess what? I saw vintage baseball cards. I saw vintage hockey cards. I saw vintage football cards. I saw modern football cards, modern basketball cards, modern baseball cards. I saw all of these things. And, we had folks, Golden had a booth there with a couple of the guys that were on the Golden Touch. Not Kenny himself. Kenny did not deign to join us with his presence. However, a couple of the guys there are guys that were on that show. So if you saw the Golden Touch, a couple of those guys were there. They had a booth. Slab Sharks had a little presence there. And I'll touch on this part right off the top. We did also have a heavy dose of the influencers. So if you guys are familiar with a bunch of folks, Roth Cards, Mojo, Hockey Cards Gong Show, which we talk about on the Friday a little bit. There's a little story about that I won't share. Maybe I'll leave that for the Burrell. We'll see. We'll see if that one comes up. It was a little fun story related to that. But let me save something. I'll save that one for Friday. Yeah, that's a Friday story. The point is, we did have our fair representation of those folks present as well. But for the most part, they went in the way. I saw them here and there, but for the most part, they were doing their thing. There was enough going on to keep everybody busy that wanted to be busy. Now, high level, one other observation I'll have. I found myself, speaking only for myself, that for the most part, I kind of just played it as it went. We didn't have too many set specific meetups or anything like that where we were going to do that. I did get a chance to see and speak to pretty much everybody. But even, for example, I saw Eric a couple different distinct times. I saw Amanda a couple of distinct times. But the times that I saw Amanda, who is the Grady Gamer, were really the only times I saw her during the entirety of the show. Yannick, I saw a couple of different times. And one of those times was at dinner, so we got to hang out during that. But for the most part, I saw the Burrell a couple of different times. I was at the AMG booth. I was in my buddy Steve's booth there, hanging out and chatting with them. What's funny is I had good FaceTime with a bunch of different folks, but for the most part, it was spread out over the course of the show. I even saw Tim briefly on Sunday. I had an audience with Brad who only waved at Eric. So I had no problems. I was able to sit there and chat with the man himself, and I may have received a down payment on swag. I'm just saying I may have received a down payment on swag, which prevented Brad from a coup that was coming. He was warned that if there wasn't some swag presented to me directly from Brad himself, the coup was happening. I would have been mayor of PSAville by the end of the weekend. He narrowly avoided such a fate.
I didn't know this. This would be news to me. I didn't know that you were paid off.
Of course. Listen, I have terms.
The PSA, what was it? The hot dog shirt or whatever that they had at the Fanatics?
No, they didn't have the hot dog shirts. They didn't have that set up. I got a collector's shirt. I'll show it off on Friday. So anyway, bottom line, and again, that was a down payment because there is more that has been promised. So I'm just saying that was a down payment to avert the coup for now. So we'll talk about it more later. So high level, I got a chance to see a variety of different people. I got a chance to, I think, Brandon, you know him as well from the Discord, Lapper. So I actually got a chance to chat with Lapper a couple different times. I got a chance to chat with Simon 466 Cards, who I've talked about before on the channel, who is based in Canada as well. So I got a chance to sit down and chat with a few folks. I got a chance to hang out with Paul for a fair bit, sit down and hang out and chat a little bit as well. Yannick was able to show off some of the cards he picked up. So I got a chance to some FaceTime with a little bit of everybody. But it wasn't one specific thing for the entirety of the show. It wasn't like, a cluster of us hung out. Eric was off doing his own thing, harassing hockey players and janitors. I was off doing my thing over here. Paul was going off and doing his own thing there. But occasionally we would bump into each other. And then a couple different times we did hang out and have dinner. And when we hang out and have dinner, that's when you can actually sit down and really talk to people for a bit. That's when you can get a little bit more of those conversations happening more extensively. During the show, people kind of want to be doing their thing and also searching for stuff and doing whatever they're doing. And I think it worked out pretty good. With Lapper, I will say, and I'll just share this, I had a couple of different chances to chat with him. And on one of the evenings, we were staying in the same hotel. So we actually ended up having a little bit of nightcap where in the hotel we just hung out, had a couple drinks with them and a couple of the other folks. And I think we solved all the hobby's problems. Unfortunately, I don't think anybody took notes. So this is like the Tenacious D thing. I could try to explain it to you, but it would just be a tribute. So you have to believe me. I wish you were there. Just saying.
I'm
But
sure.
but it was a good conversation where we covered a lot of different ground and actually had a couple of fun philosophical conversations, which was a good time and I enjoyed it. That's where you can have an opportunity, but none of it was planned. Is the point that I'm getting at? All of these setups were kind of spontaneous. We didn't even the dinner plan that I think Bobby had kind of got canceled by the wayside. So he kind of just played by ear. Everything, every night was a different thing, slightly different groups. There were some common elements, but for the most part, it depended. And I kind of like that, to be honest. I didn't really feel like being regimented. I kind of enjoyed being able to come and go as I pleased. I came there when I wanted to, and if we wanted to leave a little bit early, we could. And for the most part, I took advantage of that here and there. But I still had a good chance to have some FaceTime with everybody. And some people came by the booths and said hello, introduced themselves, and it was very nice to chat with them as well. So I think overall I feel pretty good about that. And I will say the Moxies one was very good because obviously we were able to have what's going to be some fun moments that we're going to talk about here shortly for some of us. But in addition to that, obviously Brad and Sherry were able to play host. I was able to chat with them a little bit separately as well. Lloyd, a lot of the East Coast folk, great folks to chat with and hang out with. So it was good to have that time to be able to do that. Even if it wasn't specifically planned, we didn't have a set day to do it. It just happened to be the right night where they'd been doing Moxies every night. Well, let's join them. So we were able to have dinner with these folks, even though we were kind of separated in groups. Brad was able to pop by and chat with us a little bit, and then I was able to go over there and chat with them. But we were all within proximity of each other. Literally, the tables are beside each other, so we were able to have that conversation, and then also have our own conversation as well, and then join in with the rest of the group and chat with them. So it was a good set of days. Found some stuff. Well, let's talk about the stuff here in a couple of minutes. But Eric, I want to get some high level, kind of overall thoughts, other than your harassment of hockey players and narrowly avoiding incarceration.
Other than that,
yeah. The harassment of hockey players, we take it as a given. We can talk about more about that in a minute. But general, overall views and kind of perception of the show this time around.
Yeah, it was massive. There's so much going on. I don't think I had the opportunity to hit every single corner, every single row, walk by every single table. So it's absolutely massive. Like you said, the largest one that I've ever been.
It's the largest one they've ever had. This is the biggest one they've ever had.
Right. Well, that it makes sense because it was absolutely enormous. And the thing that I enjoyed the most, having over the last handful of years build relationships every time I go there, is that these relationships are starting to grow, and I can't get down a section, an area, without running into somebody. Now, when I first, came up there a couple of years ago, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, whatever it's been now. I kind of came up there blind. I knew Corey, Tim, you, Bobby, Yannick. That's it. I didn't know anybody else in that building. Now, after 5 years, is whatever it's been, I can't go to a section of this massive show without running into a relationship. Somebody I've done business with, somebody I've had, some type of positive interaction with, and it's not everybody remembers everybody's name, but faces. And you remember, hey, last year we did this business. Last year we talked about this. Last year we had this laugh. And that's the part that I just was most impressed with is the relationships, and how in the world in a show that big can I not go from point A to point B without running into somebody? It's just that just blows me away.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoyed that very much. The product remains incredible. Seeing things that you'd never ever see. Gordie Howe game worn jerseys, Bobby Orr game worn jerseys at not that we're promoting, we don't get paid to promote anything, but at Classic Auction.
But I will take that check. To whom it may concern. I will totally take it. I will sell it so hard.
This is the check. Mark gave me a free hat over at Classic Auctions. I've done business with him before through work, and I know Mark and through signings and in Classic Auctions and all in Sports World and the whole thing. So, he has a game used Bobby Orr jersey there that's team signed from the mid 70s. That was incredible to go and see and get up close to and get pictures taken with and because of knowing Mark, I was able to kind of hold it and move it around and check things.
There were no racks around, right?
What's that?
There were no racks around, right?
No.
We know your history with game used material.
My game used Bobby Orr material history is not good.
All I'm saying is, look, he's doing this whole description. He's doing the hand gestures and everything for the audio people. You're not going to get the full benefit of it. But Eric is doing some hand talking, which, by the way, I can appreciate. It's all good. But as he's doing his hand talking, what he's actually saying is, yeah. So tell us. So where are these items now? Your closet.
Yeah, they might, whatever. I may have thrown it into a
Dallas 2.0.
Possession is 9/10 of the law, so it seems, in the house of Bougie.
It's pretty awesome. I'm just gonna throw that up there real quick for those who are watching. I'm wearing the same sweatshirt. It seems I definitely have to do some laundry, but that's a game used Orr jersey. There we go, and you can see all the autos on it from the team. So it's where else are you going to find that, other than the Expo? Or it's the only other place you're going to find it is at the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Well, so you know what? I'm glad you brought that up. So, like I said, I want to stick the high level first, and then we're going to start narrowing it down. But since you demonstrated that, you also were in the presence of another autographed item of another Boston, New England area legend, and you had equal reverence to it, very similar to it. You showed it the same kind of respect and reverence as the first image that we just showed. I think you were saying Tom Brady's number one. I believe. I think that's what was going on there.
Tom Baby is number one in my book for defrauding all of us in regards to the Best Buddies charity years ago, and his behavior at that autograph signing in Florida earlier this year. I just wanted to make it clear that I thought he was number one.
Also, again, the same goddamn sweater and hat. Jesus, we need to get you a second.
Nope, different hat in that picture. Different hat.
That was the same day. That doesn't count.
I just thought since he showed that image, I was like, well, actually, I have an image queued up of another situation.
Goat, yeah. Boston Goat, yeah. I was hanging out with Boston Goat jerseys.
Indeed.
I had different emotions with each one.
Clearly, so it would seem. So what I want to do, I'm going to go into structure this in. I want to start a high level. Now we're going to go into a couple different sections and segments. But before we do, so Brandon, kind of in the initial thoughts, obviously it is kind of different than a lot of these shows that you would have attended to. But obviously, show's a show. A lot of these things are going to be the same. And you came off the Chantilly one recently. But just any kind of general thoughts or questions, a couple of directions I want to take this, but I want to kind of get your input as well as we're going through it.
Well, for one, Eric's point of walking around the show and not being able to get from point A to point B without people wanting to stop and talk, that is a cool feeling. Going to Chantilly, obviously, they have a show 3 times a year. I don't go to every one of them now, but I've been to quite a few since I guess we started going, I don't know, 7 years ago, maybe something like that. I've forgot how long ago it's been since we started going to them. And then obviously during 2020, they had to shut it down for a period or whatever. But this last show a few weeks ago, to Eric's point, it's kind of interesting when you're just an attendee walking around, looking at showcases or whatever, and a dealer from another booth will be like, "Hey, I didn't know you were here. I hadn't seen you. Swing by. I got some stuff I want to show you," and all that. And it's because you've made those relationships, those connections, And even if the people aren't trying to sell you anything, they just want to, chit chat for a few moments. And it's nice to know that, like, whether you're buying or selling, because that guy actually had bought off of me. It wasn't me buying off of him, but he still wanted me to swing by. He had some stuff he wanted to show me. And it was actually something he wasn't even trying to sell. He just wanted to show me because he was very excited about it. Um, and it was hockey. But yeah, it's fun seeing those build over time. It's fun seeing how many dealers like remember, let's be real. My appearance with the whole long goatee and everything, like I've had this cut. I've let it grow out. Obviously I'm full gray now. I wasn't several years. And these people still recognize who I am when I go there. So it's just kind of cool. So I get Eric's point to that. Um, I'm sad that I missed out on it because it is a show that I do want to attend. So, looking forward to next year. I've promised you guys, and she knows that I want her to come as well.
Oh,
So,
have
yeah,
to.
I think it's just for one, I would like to travel and see all of that up there, but just just see that show. Especially since still being kind of new into hockey, I would, even though I've been collecting it for a few years now, I don't claim to know a lot about that sport and cards. I kind of stick to a very small element of it, and I think it would be fun to go and see a show that is predominantly hockey because I can see the baseballs, basketball, and football, all that anytime I want in Chantilly, and getting to see some of the other stuff and maybe learn more about it, maybe find some stuff that I didn't know existed that maybe catches my eye or whatever, I think would be kind of fun. So
Makes sense. Makes sense. And kind of in the same vein, and kind of what you guys were talking about as well, I mentioned a couple of different opportunities that I had to chat with some folks, and that covers the spectrum. We talked about a lot of the trading card thing and a lot of the different folks that were there, but I can also say that I had to kind of pay attention to my Instagram. I don't have any notifications set up. I know Eric has notifications set up for that, so I don't. I like not being disturbed by a lot of those things, but I did have to check regularly. It needed to be a habit for me because I would get pinged because there were a couple of folks that were set up there as dealers. I did have actually one reach out and say, "Hey, do you need the Medano StarQuest Gold?" One of those just came by the booth. "Oh, hey, this card came by. Are you interested in that?" So while I'm at the show, I'm getting these messages from folks kind of directing me towards certain items, either from the dealer side where they maybe have a chance at something, or someone saw something at a table and wanted to kind of give me a little bit of information to put me in that direction. One of the conversations I had was on Saturday, and that was where Rynot Cards. So I'll put a link in the descriptions for you guys. But he does a lot of different box breaks, but focus a lot on wrestling, and lately a lot on the AEW product. So he's part of a Facebook group with that I follow, and I've had a chance to chat with him a little bit offline as well. So he had actually done a case break that I participated in, and because he's based out of Ontario, a little bit on the opposite side, but we're both going to be at the show, he brought my stuff from the case break. So he was able to bring the stuff, and I was able to have a chat with him and his wife for a little bit, chatting a little AEW, a little wrestling cards for a little bit. So it was good. It was nice to have that conversation again in a show where you're going to have these conversations, all kinds of stuff, all over the map. It was nice to be able to do that, and it was kind of fun because then you also have somebody that you can send some of these images to if you see something interesting. I did come across this, so I'm going to share like a couple of images as we're talking, just to add a little bit to this. But this was one that I saw at a table, and talk about all the sports that we talked about, right? So this actual showcase was all the wrestling cards. And one of them was we have the dentist over here in a red PMG. Now I already have more of these than I need to see in a lifetime, so I'm good. And the price point isn't exactly, it's actually not terrible, but I already have obviously multiple copies and I don't need another one. For me, it was just quaint to be able to see it on a showcase. That's the part that I enjoyed. It kind of stuck out there, the two PMGs, and I just thought it was great that they were there in the first place. So it's kind of fun. So that gives you little stuff to look for. It's like an Easter egg hunt. You're basically out there just looking, and if you see something interesting, like, oh, hey, they got that thing on there. It's kind of fun to see a showcase with stuff that isn't just the same stuff as always. So that's kind of nice. and it was kind of a theme of my show. And we'll take a couple of minutes in a few to showcase some items we picked up. I'm at the point in most of my collecting, and we've touched on this theme throughout the show the last several months. I'm at the point in my collecting where I have enough stuff. I don't necessarily need more stuff. And if I do want to buy something, and I brought some money, I want it to be interesting. I want it to be something that stands out to me in some way, or something that fits like a specific niche that I'm really interested in adding more pieces to. Otherwise, I may as well just keep the money in my pocket, because then, what's the point of spending it? I could have bought something at dozens of tables. That would not have been an issue. Some of it was priced incorrectly, in my opinion, but some of it is, yeah, it's cool, but there's so much more out there potentially that I could pick up that would be cooler. My buddy Steve had a card. We were able to work something out very quickly with that. No problem there. Great. That was the first purchase I made in the week. So I'll start sharing a couple of, and Eric, we can kind of intersperse as we go. So let me share one. So this was at my buddy Steve's table. So this was the very first item I bought at the show this year. And this came at his table. So we got, this is 20, nice 21, 22. Color. Yep. So you got some nice, considering the size of the window, that's actually a pretty solid patch. And it's numbered to 5, so that's a little gold version of that card. So that right there was
is that the gold trim there on the sleeve?
So that one would actually be, that little gold piece is actually part of the crest. So that's going to be part of the stars on the crest.
Like the little sleeve design right there.
This one's the thick gold bar. So this one's part of the thick one. So it's generally speaking on the front crest. So that's usually where you get that piece from. Game used, the very, very solid, very good. So it's one of those ones where like that was an easy pickup for me. I saw it right on his table and the price was reasonable already. We did a quick back and forth, boom. But that's where when we were giving the tips, I've known Steve for more than 20 years. He goes, yep, just send me the e-transfer. But not only that, and we were talking about that during the show, not only that. So here's the difference between having a long-standing relationship, and maybe we can touch on this theme since it touches on a little bit of what you guys were talking about. So here's the difference. We talked about the card. We came to a price we agreed on. That took like 3 minutes. It wasn't a long, drawn-out conversation. We came to a price we agreed on, and he agreed to e-transfer, no problem. He literally was like, yeah, throw it in your bag. Take it with you and, square it up later.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens when you have a long-standing relationship of many. I literally walked off the table without having paid for it and at the behest of the owner. He said, yeah, just throw it in the bag, pay me later. So, I took care of it that evening. I went in and I just did the quick transfer, boom, boom, boom. And he's got auto deposits. So he gets the notification. I get the notifications. I had the property with me in the hotel room that night. I still hadn't paid for it until I went online. So basically Eric and I did a live. And after I did the live, I went online and quickly a couple of button pushes, boom, transfer made, purchase paid for. But that's what happens when you know someone for more than 20 years and you can do that. There's never been a question. I've had stuff mailed to me from him before we came to the final total of the deal. He goes, we're going to come up with the deal. We'll come up with a number. That's fine. Here you go. Hang on to it for now. And, give me the total later. That's not standard operating procedure, but that's what happens when 1, you have long-standing relationships, and 2, I was chatting about that with Steve during one of the days as well. Reputation's everything. It's everything. If you do not have a reputation of being reliable, if you do not have a reputation of paying your bills, no one's going to trust anything in you. Everything's going to be like, yeah, payment up front and do it in cash and let me see it and all that. But if you have a good reputation, it opens a lot of doors. It makes sure that people are comfortable dealing with you. And that's huge. I think that's a good general theme, though. Reputation's everything.
I think it's also something that isn't spoken on enough in the hobby. Or
what a coincidence! And now I bring it up.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't see the significance of having it because there's so much BS that goes on that's spoken of all the time. It's kind of like I don't want to take this down the political path when I say this, so I'm not going in a politic way. But when people talk about the news, they always say how the news is bringing up the negative things, and they don't talk enough about the good things, and that kind of gets muddied up sometimes in the hobby as well. A lot of times the drama and the bad shit gets talked about, but a lot of times the good stuff is always overlooked. It doesn't get the clicks. It doesn't get the views. So
sure. And I think that last portion is the key. For them, it's the proof is in the pudding. They've seen what the ratings are when you go that way. The audience does tend to be more retained if it's the negative thing, the negative headline getting more attention than the positive headline, so to speak. And that's an unfortunate truth in general. But yeah, but that's the reason why I did. That is the reason why I did want to bring it up. It's a conversation we had specifically right about that as well. Because in the same vein, so I'll give you a similar example. Because my buddy Steve does a brisk business because he's got some nice stuff. You know, Eric can attest to that. He's got some great stuff there. But one of the key things is because of that, he's constantly doing the flow of money moving back and forth with it. And then as he goes along, like a lot of the dealers, you start ending up with these wads of cash and you try basically to consolidate it. One thing, by the way, this is a normal thing at regular card shows. If a dealer winds up with too many $10 bills or $20 bills and they don't want to be holding that much bills, they may go to a fellow dealer and say, hey, can I trade you some of these 20s for a couple of hundreds or vice versa or whatever? That's just them taking the same amount of money but consolidating it into a more streamlined thing so that when they go to deposit it or do whatever, it's a little bit less work. It's just making their life a little bit easier. Well, the other side of the equation, and goes to the theme of what I just said, imagine, if you will, hypothetically, you have some friends in that category and you got a card and you need some cash. This is not a loan. You have the cash, but you don't want to go to the machine and incur the extra fee and all these things and all that, whatever. So you could do that. Or you could say, hypothetically, hey, would you mind? I want to take care of this, or I want to pay this bill, or I want to buy this card. You know, can I borrow $500 or $1,000 for a little bit, and I'll do the transfer for you directly, and you get it in your account, and I get the cash. And they say, yep, sure. How much you need? Boom, 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 boom. Here you go, done. Because all you did was transfer cash for cash, but instead of going to the machine and having people look around what you're doing there, you know,
Yeah.
it's a little bit safer in some instances. But again, that option is not available to everyone. It is available if you have some friends in that position who are able to do that, and also if you have a reputation for making sure that that money does not go uncleared. The accounts are balanced at the end of the night. As long as that's a consistent thing with you, people are a lot more comfortable extending that offer, because literally in the same breath as he goes, literally as he literally handed me the money, he goes, you know, you're on a very short list of people who I will do that for. I just won't, because but I was like, yep, I know, reputation's everything.
My bank didn't come. Corey from Show Your Slabs has been my bank for the last few years, and it's become a running joke between us that by day 3, you know, over at his booth, give me money, you know, which, you know,
The problem, Eric, isn't you saying give me money. The problem is you saying give me money while wearing a ski mask.
yeah.
It's the ski mask, I think, that is sending the wrong message for.
Yeah, but he knows it's me for somehow he always knows it's me.
Because you're wearing the same goddamn hoodie.
Yeah.
Who else in Canada is wearing a bicycle hoodie?
Yeah.
Good Lord.
So yeah, he wasn't around. Now, like he was saying though, and kind of what I started off saying is like I have all these relationships. I knew who in a pinch who I could go to fill that void if necessary. It didn't come into play. I didn't have to do it. There was a TD bank around the corner. So one morning before I came to the show, I went over to the bank, you know, went to the bank machine, took some more money out. But if I was in need of money, you know, you and I and Brandon have some mutual friends that, you know, would have gladly, you know, hooked me up. But yeah, my traditional bank didn't show up for this show, and I was in a panic. I was like, who am I going to get
Eric, from? Before we get too deep into the conversation, before you start showing your buys, since you had to go back to the bank, did you not take out your allowance to start, or did you try to minimize your expenditures by not taking out the full allowance to start?
Yeah, I tried to minimize, and I'm like, I shouldn't need any more than this. I needed more than that.
Okay.
Now, as a little bit of a defense, first of all, I had permission. So I had my allowance. Allowance is you're allowed, so that's permission. I had to purchase things for work.
Okay.
So when several $100s came out of my pocket, which I know I'm getting back, like Carlos, was talking. I'm not worried about that. But now I don't have actual cash in my pocket, and we all know cash is king at a card show. All right, that I had to get that money back in my pocket.
Okay, I'll give you a pass there. You did pick up
And
some
then there
things
was some
for others. It
overspending,
wasn't
and I
all
needed
for
more
you.
money.
Okay.
There
I
was
was
some of
just
that.
I was concerned that if Mrs. Wade happened
Yeah,
to listen to the pod that you might get scolded and no
yeah.
cookies for a month because you had to go
Oh,
back and dip
no.
your toes into the TD bank because
Yeah.
you had surpassed
Bank.
the allowance.
Yeah. I went to the Titty Bank. And if you watch Letterkenny, that's a reference. So I went to the Titty Bank and went
After
to bank.
watching Manual in Space, go on.
No, and I had to replenish that income that went out for work plus the over expenditures of myself. So it wasn't as bad as it sounds, because I will get some of that money back. So
Indeed. But yeah, so I wanted to make sure we touched on that theme because that was again, it goes back to that high level theme of your reputation will be a big thing because it is a small world, and this is a conversation that I had a few different times. I just said, like, guys, the ecosystem's small, and I'm also talking then regionally because in Canada, most of the big dealers know each other. Most of the big players in the space know each other.
Yeah.
Even the influencers and content creators in the thing in the Canadian space, most of them know each other. So it's a very tiny ecosystem that you're operating in. Now, going back to kind of the initial high level explanation that I gave, I didn't go in with a lot of set plans. And part of that reason was because, number one, I do enjoy the flexibility of being able to do kind of as I wish. I didn't have any obligations set. I did create a YouTube short for the AMG channel because Steve, and I'll talk more about that on the AMG podcast. So this will drop on the Tuesday, but there will be an AMG podcast episode that will come on Wednesday, and we'll also be doing live. And during both of those, I guarantee we'll be talking Expo with those folks as well. But I want to get that from their perspective. Either on one or the other, I forget. We'll see which one it's going to end up being. But on one or the other, I'm going to have Steve break down a nice little 5-figure deal that he put together on the table that Cherry was actually able to capture with a camera. So I was very proud of them. They actually captured a little bit of that information that came with that deal. I was able to make a YouTube short out of it, but we've also got a longer version of the video. And Steve can give more flavor and context in what it was. And it involved a very big card. And it was a little bit of a trade and cash deal that they were able to put together, which, influencers notwithstanding, that's not normal. Of course, there are deals made like that. Absolutely. But in the world of most people, 5-figure deals are not the norm. They're the exception. But if you just watch vlogs, you would think, oh yeah, that's like every 5 seconds. That's not how the real world works. Most people are buying, $20 cards. They're buying like a little stack. They're going to the dollar bin. That's the average. Now, if you're doing a little bit of cash and trade, then obviously the numbers can go up exponentially from there. But it was a good example of one approach from a dealer who has this card. This other person wants to trade and buy into it. So then how do you put the deal together? What are you looking at? How do you figure out the numbers and make it work? It'll be good to get his insight from that because obviously they were able to come to a deal and make it happen. And I ended up seeing the card, and I'll share a story about that when we get a chance to talk about it in more depth. The reason I'm bringing that up, though, is that there are a lot of stories like that happening during the show. And because I didn't have any set agenda to it, I was able to focus. I never even got a chance to pull out the camera. I had the camera on the tripod and everything, never even brought it out at any point during the show. Usually in a show vlog, I'll do this. Now, the lighting in my room wasn't the greatest, so honestly, I didn't get a chance to do that portion of the vlog. But during the show floor, I never even brought this camera out because that wasn't my main focus. I wasn't too worried about it. I kind of wanted to just enjoy the show and be there in the moment, so to speak. And I was still able to get a lot of mileage out of it, even without that. And there will still be content because I did the pickup video, and then we're doing this, and I'm explaining what happened at the show. So we're still getting that out of it. And then on the Friday live, we'll be able to tell some more stories. We'll bring in Bobby, and he can give his perspective and some of his stories from his side of it. So the content will still be there. The content gods shall still be appeased, but we're doing it in a different way. I didn't specifically set out like I must make a vlog. I must capture all this footage for all this thing and then splice it together. But there are some folks that are doing that, and I think they're doing a good job. And I look forward to watching their interpretation of the show.
I don't know when we would have had time. Like you said earlier, we really didn't schedule anything. We all had different schedules, things to do. I was completely booked up Saturday and
By the
Sunday.
authorities.
The Mounties are very nice people. They don't like being made fun of, having their hats made fun of. However, they're very, very nice.
They also don't like you bothering janitors. Go on.
So while I was spending time with the mounted police on Saturday and Sunday, I was unable to meet up with you guys and do anything. You know, Thursday's a half a day, and Friday it was run around the show as fast as I can because that was my only full day on the floor. And you know, we ran into each other here and there, spent time, walked around a little bit here and there, but like you said, we either didn't organize well, which might be part of the case, or it's tough to get everybody who has different agendas and needs and wants in a short time span to say, okay, give up on your search for this so we can all meet at location A at 10 a.m. and do something. So, you know, it was difficult. You know, I mean, we all hung out and did things and had dinners and all that. But it's like once those doors open, it's like a horse race, all coming out of the gate at full blast. And it's not easy to, hey, let's stop doing what we're doing to go do this. You know, maybe that's something we need to focus more on in the future and say, okay, well, Thursday, let's, you know, or at least maybe Friday, say, okay, Friday at this time, it's scheduled.
Mm.
But
as long as it's not mornings, because I don't know what that is.
Right. So Friday at 4, Friday at 4, this is on the schedule. This is where we all have to be. This is the plan. This is the agenda. Because it was, you know, it was trying to catch greased chickens. You know, it was impossible.
So I
was going to say herding cats, but the grease thing is interesting. Go on. Go ahead.
You ever try to catch a greased chicken? Good luck.
Well, I was just going to say, like, the National Sea, they have all of these professional meetups planned way ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Specific dates, times, no conflicting, that like they coordinate to where it can be multiples going on. You're telling me y'all dropped the ball here.
Well, listen, I was told, so I'm going to have a little bit of fun with this later on as well.
Kidding, by the way.
But... No, but hold on, Brandon. This is giving me an opening. Hold on. This is giving me an opening. So two things that brings to mind right away. First of all, you know who alluded to planning something? Amanda. And remember, I said explicitly, I'm not planning shit. Nope. not. I have exempted myself from all such things. I just said, y'all let me know where I'm supposed to be, and I will make an appearance. But otherwise, I know nothing about nothing. There is nothing on my schedule. I will show up when I damn well please, and I will leave when I damn well please. Did I not utter these words?
Yeah. And that's how it went for all of us. We came when we, you know, I was getting texts from Yannick at 7:30 in the morning. I'm here. Well, I wasn't conscious for an hour after that, and I strolled in around 9:30. You know, so I mean, you get there when you get there, and you do what you do, and if something worked out and you can meet up with your friends, then great. But I knew that I only had a day and a half on that floor, and Saturday and Sunday, I'm booked. So if somebody had scheduled something, I would have made it work. But trying to wrangle me and then try to, you know, and then so you say if you found me, hey, I want to do something. Okay. All right. We have to go find these guys. Well, self-service was spotty. I know when my phone rang or pinged or, you know, or whatever, I didn't hear it all the time because it's so noisy. Plus, you know, I have bad hearing, as we all know. So it isn't like you could instantly get a hold of somebody because they may not have heard their phone, or the reception could have been bad and they didn't get the call.
I think that's a fair point. I will say for the most part, my reception was okay, but it's just because I have my phone basically attached to me so that I can kind of feel it. So that's usually what helps me. So Brandon,
I
go ahead. You were
thought
going to say
I
something?
saw my watch go off, and there was one time Saturday, and I was really busy. Tim was trying to get a hold of me, and I never felt the vibration in my wrist. And that's usually what gets me to kind of get my attention is either the watch lights up and I notice it, or I feel some kind of vibration. And he finally gave up because he couldn't get a hold of me.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I was just curious because it's like always a big thing now at all these other shows and stuff around here, but it's not really my thing. But do they have like the planned shebang with the trade nights and all that for the expo, or
At least two of the nights for sure. So two of the nights they actually opened up a little area there beside. It's actually in the venue now. And it is just beside. They've got like a little conference rooms that they'll open up a space there for them. It's separate from the main show floor. They'll open up this conference room space, and it is a convention center that's built with a lot of conference room and conference room areas. So they can specifically open it up with tables and everything and make it available. And I think now Dr. Collectibles, see another doctor in the hobby. So they get some of these influencers to host, and then I think Mint Inc. sponsored one of them, so they got some giveaways and stuff. So they've started to organize. Now it's started to get more of a normal. It used to be they did it one night, and now I think they do it a couple of nights. So they actually will, and they'll promote it. They'll promote it to the show now. They'll actually do a better job of telling people, by the way, after 6 o'clock on Saturday, here's a trade night, or Friday night. Here's going to be a trade night in blah 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 room. It's over there, and there's some signage that'll point you in the right direction. Not my steal, but it was there. It was available for folks that took advantage of.
Yeah, I was just curious because I hadn't really heard that discussed about with the expo and stuff, so I wasn't sure if that was a thing that they did up there or anything. But yeah, it's the same way. Like at the national, they like Card Collector 2 had his trade night. I walked over. Actually, that's where I met Brad at. Was at the Card Collector 2 trade night. It wasn't like there was people sitting on the floor and all that. I didn't really go to dabble or try to make deals or anything like that. I just kind of walked over with Mike O, and I actually picked cards up from Dustin to submit for grading, and just kind of checked the scenery out while I was there. Met Brad, all that, but I was just curious. So
yeah, and I think one thing, and this is something maybe we can take away for next fall. One thing I think, Eric, will be worthwhile is even if we're not going to organize something directly between all of us, I think we'll try to make sure that during one of those, we'll actually make sure we take some pictures of the group when we are able to actually get everybody and herd all the cats and get them into a space. It'd be good to have that documentation of it. It can't just be us, collectively throwing mayo packets at you. That's a good group activity, but that's not like, it's not like it doesn't give itself to image taking. We're all busy throwing. So it's not the same. It's a group activity, bonding experience, but it's not the same thing.
it's a good exercise.
Oh, yeah. My arm was great. Felt great after. It's pretty good. So now speaking of mayonnaise, not really, but segues that they are. I'm going to show a couple more cards, and then we're going to talk about it. I want to go through mine because then we want to talk about some really fancy pickups, because someone may have gotten some grails, plural. Oh, some fancy grails, super fancy grails. But I picked up some standard kind of items for the collection, so I'll show a couple of these. I did do it in the video as well. So there's a Winning Materials Jersey Auto. So that was a nice one. So this was part of the first day of pickups. So really my pickups were broken down to 2 days. So this was in day one of the pickups. And then this one, I'll give the quick story. I did it on the live as well, but I'll do it really fast. So this is an SPX Parallel 2003-2004 of one of the subsets. This is numbered to 10. It's a little hard to see in this image, but it is numbered to 10. And this was actually in a quote-unquote bargain bin. So Eric was there for this one. This is the one where he had a couple different boxes for different players. He had Patrick Waugh, he had Yager, he had, Janitor Guy. So, Eric's favorite. So he had that. And then there was a row where he had a row of Rynot cards. And in the Rynot cards, I'm like, okay, I've got a lot of stuff, but let me skim through and take a look. Some nice stuff was in there, but I skimmed through and I've got that, and I'm skimming. And then I saw this card. And it was priced quote unquote correctly. You know, it did acknowledge it was the out of 10, so it wasn't like the guy didn't know what he had, so he put it on there. He put $150 on it, which to me is overly aggressive. You're asking too much. But then I say, okay, look, I got it here. I'm pulling it out of basically a bargain bin box, so to speak, because literally you're making these boxes. But obviously it's got decent stuff in it if you're able to have like patches and, cards out of 10. So I said to him, all right, what do you want to do? So the guy looks at it and he goes, $100. And I go, all right, so you've already dropped it $50. So I'm like, all right. So I'll tell you what. So I said, I'm thinking 80. And he's like, 90. And I'm like, I'm thinking 80.
Yeah.
He's like, 85. And I'm like, oh, well, I'll think about it. All right, I'll take 80. Great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
That's how it
Good
happens.
to know. Good to know. So bottom line, sometimes dealers get a little too cute, Brandon, is the point that the moral of the story is sometimes dealers try to get too cute. It's like you put it in a bargain bin. This isn't the showcase. So like you don't need to get overly cute. Just look, I'm offering you $80 cash for a car that you clearly didn't see fit to put in the showcase. Yeah. I think we're okay. Just take the money and walk away, my man. It's all good. It's all good.
And that is pretty much what you said. It was in the box.
Yeah. I literally said, like, you put it in the box there. It's not in the showcase. So I'm like,
don't try to make me believe that I have a Grail card in my possession. You put it in the box.
Yeah, it's weird sometimes when they try to get a little too clever for themselves. It's like, guys, it's not rocket science. Most of the time, the negotiations are very straightforward, very simple. So that's one day's worth of pickups. The other day, I'll go through these real quick. They were all at the same dealer's table. So this one here is actually from 0809, and it's a 7980 top/O-Peachy design. It's got a little bit of hollow foil shine to it. It is numbered to 100. So it's a nice looking card. It is a playing days card, which to me is a bonus. That's kind of what I want. Same dealer also had this card here, and this is from the Cup, and it's the gold parallel out of 25. It's a nice one. So I'll take that, and I bundled up those two cards. And then I actually bundled up those two cards with a brodeur card that I gave to the ungrateful swine. We're going to get back to that in a minute. But the last one was on the other showcase. So the dealer saw I was interested in the Medanos, and he's like, well, actually, I think I've got one more Medano for you if you're interested. And I said, okay, show me what you got in the showcase. And he had a gold refractor from Topps Pristine. So it's Topps Pristine gold refractor.
It is really nice looking. That doesn't do it justice.
Yeah, so Topps Pristine.
That matches well with the uniform, too.
It does. And that is numbered to 33.
Yeah.
So those ones are tough. So that's
that?
03. That's 2003, 2004. So these ones are actually extremely tough. So the out of 33. So I did make a video with the pickups. I would recommend if you want to get a better look at it, go check out the video of the pickups because that's in better full HD. It's a much cleaner image. You'll be able to see it much better. I will show it off on my Instagram as well, but you can check it out in the video. I do show it a lot better. You'll be able to see it. But these are actually really nice. And this is the one that I needed to complete my rainbow. So I was pretty sure I needed it, but I was able to work out a little bundle deal. Now, I had actually already purchased those other ones, including the brodeur. But when I found this one, I said, okay, I am interested. So I said, what do you want to do? And he said, well, he had a $180 sticker on it. And he said, I have a guy who's thinking about it at $150. And I go, I see. But I already bought those other cards from you just now. This is basically like a bundle deal. How about 140? And he's like, you're making a valid point. I go, yeah, I'm literally buying a bundle deal. So bundle it. Bundle it. Like, what do we do? Again, Brandon, they're trying to get too cute. They're treating it like a one-off transaction. Literally, I just bought a bundle from you 5 seconds ago. Like, It's a bundle at this point. It's a fourth card to the bundle.
Basically the same guy. Like,
let's not get over clever with ourselves here. Let's make sure would you like the cash or not, sir? Like, I'm literally right here spending money with you right now. Would you like the rest of the cash? Because I can give you more cash if you just sell me the card. So anyway, he took the deal, and now I've got the card, so great. That's another one. And one last thing I'll show off here, just because we got it. I also was able to get a nice gift from Amanda. She actually gave me an Upper Deck authenticated calendar. I'm not going to show it here. I'll probably show it on the Friday live because it's a bigger item, so I'll show it again. I did show it on the live previously during the Expo. But I did get some cards on-site graded. So I'll quickly want to touch on that since that's a thing there. Second year they've done on-site grading. The price was fairly reasonable. If you're not going with the super high end, obviously it does scale depending on the levels. You can get upcharged for sure. But I had 3 cards that were PC cards. So they qualified for that base level. So for me, that was perfect. It was $99 US per. And Luke who has been on the PSA Canada podcast in the past. He was actually able to take care of that for me because you could submit directly to it. But again, it's nice to have people. So in this case, people you hand the card off to who then take care of it and can give you a slightly better price, allegedly. But the point is that $99 is the standard rate. That's the standard rate. So anyway, so I was able to get 3 cards done, and they're all for the dentist PC. So first, I got an autograph out of 5. So we got this one here.
Very nice.
That one's graded a 9. Yeah, it's a nice fancy card. But again, these are all PC. That's what I wanted it for, so that's what I was shooting for. And this one's a Golden Treasures. So 22 Allure Golden Treasures, an autograph there. And that is a 1 of 1. And that one is a 9 as well. Again, PC piece. Yep, so 1 of 1. And then I got one more 1 of 1, which is the Gold PMG 1 of 1.
Oh, wow.
And that one came back as an 8, which for PMG is actually not bad. For an 8 for PMG, that's solid. And that's the Gold PMG 1 of 1. Nice cards, and those are all PC for me. So we've talked about this before. Use cases. I'm not doing those to flip. Those are my cards. Those are just because I wanted them in the holder, and that's the only reason why. Otherwise, whatever. I also gave them about 7 or 8 cards that I wanted them to submit in bulk. Those ones can wait. They can take their time. I'm not as worried about it. Most of those are PC as well, to be perfectly honest with you. So for me, I was able to get these at the show because these are 1 of 1s. I don't necessarily want to wait. So in this case, I was able to get it graded, get the stuff, and get it back in hand within a couple of days within the show, and I've got it back in my hands. And that's exactly what I paid the premium for. But again, you don't have to. Your mileage may vary. And that constitutes the majority of my pickups from the show. So 4 days I was there, and like the majority of it was just me taking care. I dropped off some cards for ComC. I dropped off some cards for grading. And I was able to find some stuff that I liked. Plain day stuff that was nice. And some of those cards are pretty cool. But I'll be honest, some of the big fancy cards, and I'll share that in a minute, but where I want to get to some of Eric's pickups. The point was, I didn't specifically go there going, oh my God, I have to buy 50 things to justify my time here. It was about the vibes. It was about kind of just hanging out. It was also vacation for me. So again, I was able to kind of come and go as I please. I came in, had my lunch or brunch, and then popped in, hung out. I would sit at the AMG booth, hang out and chat with folks as they were good. Some folks recognized me from the podcast there. And we'd have a conversation. We'd sit and chat for a little bit. Or I'd hang out with Paul for a bit, or Yannick, or whoever. And we'd chat. That was the majority of the show for me. That's what I was having my fun with. And then we go have dinner in the evening and hang out. So that's kind of the way I treated the show. And that made it a successful show for me. Your miles may vary, but that's kind of the approach that I took to this one, and it made it work.
Again, the hanging out and seeing people you don't get to see. I mean, it's definitely different spending time with people, face to face than, on the computer screen. That's why I hope, Brandon will join us someday and come hang out with us. It's definitely a little bit different. It's more personable than doing this, even though, we do this weekly and a couple of times a week, we see the same people, and then we're communicating with them over, either phone calls or texts all week. But it's definitely different when you get a chance to, be in the same room as, somebody. And
it's an added bonus when you get a chance to troll someone in person,
yeah,
while their wife agrees. I won't speak for anyone in particular, but it is a thing when you control them and then their wife is laughing and agreeing with you.
Well, just on the aspect of the trolling, she's never on camera, but she's a big part of not only the channel, but the submission group, and everybody knows her without even some folks have met her obviously at the national stuff. But I want to say, Eric, since Carlos mentioned the trolling in person.
Yes. In person.
The missus even has been shopping and looking out for things.
Oh boy.
Because you're her BFF.
We'll leave it at that. She's my BFF. Absolutely.
And it's the ones that are closest to you that can cut deepest, Eric.
Yes. And it sounds like she's going to take a limb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm just saying that sounds ominous. What I'm hearing is ominous.
Yeah,
that sounds ominous. I hear dark clouds in the horizon.
Fun. No,
they have
it's all in fun without anyone needing to be hurt.
Yeah, they have my address. I'm concerned now.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. So let's move along. I wanted to make sure I showed those cards. I wanted to showcase some of the items that I picked up, and again, just give the high level. So that was the theme of the show. We could have sent each other messages and whatever and specifically coordinated, but I think everybody wanted to kind of be doing their thing. And if we happen to bump into each other during the show, fine. Dinner is most of the time when we got most of our hanging out and chatting time. That was the better time to speak on that because during the show, maybe it's hard to go through that many tables. I did get a chance to go through every section. So I was happy to be able to make sure I did do a full sweep. And I ended up coming back around, and it was on the third day where I found that last set on a dealer showcase, and I was able to make that last deal. That to me was a success. I'll also showcase, so after I highlight this part and we showcase some stuff from Eric, I will also show you a couple of cards that I bought during the show, one on ComC and one on eBay. And I'll actually give you the story on both so that we can actually touch it. Technically, they're show pickups, but not exactly. So they were pickups during the week of the show, though. And they came about, one of them came about specifically because of a transaction that didn't happen. And because of the way it went down, I said, you know what? I'm going to buy the damn card. It was the impetus to finalize the transaction and make it happen on eBay. So I'll talk about that. So anyway, all right. So Eric, I wanted to save this section for this segment that I like to call, hold on. You know what? I'm going to do something because we have production values over here. This segment is, hold on. We're going to have a little segment. There. Okay. This segment I like to call Eric is an ungrateful swine.
Okay.
And it's all going to make sense shortly. So the segment is called Eric is an ungrateful swine. So we're going to start off. We're going to ease our way into it. So first, a hobby goat presented you with a wonderful card of one of your favorite hockey players of all time, Bobby Orr. Chicago Blackhawks legend, Bobby Orr. So, Eric, I think first we need to talk about that one, and then I will give a little background to that one, and then we'll talk about another card that may pertain to Bobby Orr that we can discuss as well. But let's talk about first. And again, I remind you all the segment is Eric is an ungrateful swine, which will come up in two different ways here. Eric, the floor is yours. What do we have first? What do we have in the docket? And don't make me pull up an image because I've got an image too. So you better show it. No, Eric, I've got a full-size image. I can bring it up on the screen. Don't even worry about it. You're going to have to do better than that. That right there, what is it, Eric? What is that card?
You bought me a Bobby Orr card.
Oh, yes, I did. And what year and brand of card is that?
That's a 77-78 O-Pee-Chee.
It is. And what team is he playing on there? What team is he on the front there?
I can't read. It's backwards on the screen. I can't read it.
Oh, I think you can read it just fine. You might be bad with the maths, but I think your reading is perfectly fine.
It may say Blackhawks.
Yes, it might say Blackhawks. And of course, Brandon, Eric gave it the same amount of regard and reverence. That's such a thoughtful, wonderful, allow me to make it bigger here. A wonderful, thoughtful gift. So, Brandon, let me give it a little background. Let me give it a little story. Let's talk about his tale. Carlos is at the Expo. And, he's looking at dealer tables, and it's been a little disappointing, a little slim pickings. He's finding some stuff. Pricing isn't right. But he says to himself, self, I think we need to do something nice for the unfortunate. Not less fortunate, unfortunate. We need to do something nice for the unfortunate. So I said to myself, what can we do? So I go looking around. Again, there is vintage, there's modern, there's all kinds of things. So I go and look for myself for a grail. I go look for a chef's kiss, beautiful card. And I come across this card, Brandon. But I take it a step further, Brandon. I am not satisfied.
No,
I am not satisfied.
Nope.
No. Because that card, Brandon, was not graded when I found it. It was on a dealer's table.
Ooh.
He found it on a dealer's table. And you know what happened? I was talking to the man. He was a little iffy. He didn't want to necessarily adjust on the price. But you know what I said to him, Brandon? I said to him a negotiating tactic that is rarely known. Allow me to share it with you. I said to the man, it's like, listen, I'm not buying this for me. I'm buying this for a buddy of ours, a Boston Bruins fan who enjoys, and by that I mean hates, everything pertaining to the Chicago Blackhawks era of Bobby Orr. And I am buying this to torment this man. I'm going to present him this card and torture him with it mercilessly and without shame. And this man was stoic. This man was stone-faced the entire time we were prior to all this in the negotiation phase of it. And you know what happened? This man laughed. This man cackled. And then when it was done, he said, all right, I'll do it for the joke. And he discounted that shit. I gave the man his money. He handed me back the card after a discount for the gag. And then you know what I did? I marched that card over to one of Eric's favorites. KSA Grading was right there. And let me tell you, I had to fight the crowds of no one to walk right up to the front. And there was a young lady right there. And I said, hey, I would like to get this card graded. Again, fighting the crowds of no one. So as I walked to the front of that table and handed her the card.
Just
I
Mint and KSA, Mint especially, no one.
Not a living soul. So I interrupted the young lady from playing with her phone.
Yes.
so that I could say
4 days. That's all that girl did.
Go ahead, Brandon. You're about to ask a question.
I was just gonna say, look, I am an SGC submitter, and I get that has the black insert, but that is ugly. Like that slab is ugly. That's all I can say about it. That is just, sorry.
And Brandon, oddly, that added to the appeal of this.
Oddly,
that was the point.
It does match the Blackhawks colors, though.
It does with the gradient and everything.
I have to appreciate that.
Yes. And Brandon, the key point is I don't give a shit. It's not going to be my card. The point is, so I hand her this card and I give her this money and I pay. I'm like the only person who paid to get a card graded. And I had that handed back to me. And as soon as I had it, I had the Grail of Grails in my hand. And
what the hell is ENM, by the way? Excellent near mint?
Excellent near mint. Excellent near mint. Yes.
And they just slash it all together as one acronym?
Yep. Enum. It's good old Enum.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Enum.
Yep, the good old Enum. So then I take the Grail of Grails with me to dinner. And I present this wonderful card to the ungrateful swine. Hold on. The ungrateful swine that is Juan Sanderson or Eric. And of course, Eric received it with the appreciation that one would expect from such a gift.
Can I ask one question?
Please.
I respect you wholeheartedly. That was a very thoughtful gift, Carlos.
It really was.
You should be way more grateful than ungrateful.
Without a doubt. Without question.
But on a serious note.
How
much was that card to begin with that it needed to be discounted? How much is his later year cards? Because
Brandon, in all seriousness, it doesn't matter what team he played for. It's a 70s Bobby Orr card. If it's in decent shape, they're actually more expensive than I think. I ended up paying, I think, for $25 for it. So it's one of those. Yeah. It's not terrible.
I wasn't sure where it would be sitting.
It cost me twice as much to do the on-site grading.
Okay.
Yeah. It literally cost me twice as much to do the on-site grading. And I was actually making the statement after it. I said, yeah, it's no price is too great to troll Eric. To me, it was worth every dollar. I would have paid double. Easily.
Well, I mean, it is his true rookie, so.
It is, yeah. It's fine. It's one of the two actual cards that comprise his entire NHL career. He built a Hall of Fame career based on his time in Chicago. But yes, Eric is an ungrateful swine. However, that is not the end of the story, my friends. That is not the end of the story. If that was the end of the story, that's bad enough. I gave Eric a grail. A grail! But then, Eric's new best friend, his actual BFF, the apple of his eye, a hobby idol for Eric, decided to give him, I gave him a grail card of his professional hockey league career. But our friend, Eric's best friend, BFF, Brad, when we were at Moxie's having dinner, enjoying the company of the East Coast folks, their hospitality, the wonderful hospitality of the East Coast folks, Brad presented the ungrateful swine himself with the best minor league card in the history of Bobby Orr. Eric, the stage is yours.
My very best friend in the whole entire world and hobby goat, Brad. gave me a very nice gift that I will be forever grateful for. I did not expect it. My appreciation has no bounds, and my shock lasted a good 5 minutes. He pulled from his back pocket this and presented it to me.
And what is it, Eric? For the audio folks, what is it?
It is a Bobby Orr 1966 rookie card in a PSA 1.
And no, graded no less. My goodness.
And
it's a nice, like outside of you can see the little line across the face or whatever, but outside of that, the centering, corners, and all that, it looks like it's in good, like very nicely centered and everything. Nice eye appeal on it. So,
and on a serious note, the card has belonged to Brad for some time. He purchased it with his uncle, who he has great admiration for, who recently passed. And they purchased that together for a whopping sum of like $150 some time ago in Brad's youth. And so it has great sentimental value. To
Indeed.
Brad. And
so in the right now as we're speaking, this is part of the moment here. I'm showcasing the card, and Eric is beside himself. He's elated. He's filled with glee. It's like, my goodness. It's like, and of course I am giving him words of wisdom, and I can't share the audio. It's too much, but I'm giving him words of wisdom and capturing the moment for posterity so that we can all enjoy it at this very time. Again, face of rapture. That's joy, unbridled joy on this man's face. My goodness. Incredible. Brings a tear to the glass eye.
It almost did.
And like as Eric said, it was part of a thing with Brad's uncle. And Brad's uncle is a very special person in Brad's life. So that adds an air of gravitas to this. So again, I'm just gonna put it back on here. So I think there may be a cooling of tenor. I think Eric, the bro appreciation may be elevated to a height yet not yet seen. Otherwise, Eric is quite the ungrateful swine who may be in fact struck by lightning.
Brad is a wonderful human being. And
quite the momentous moment this is. It's quite, Brandon, like the holiday season is around the corner. Thanksgiving is nigh.
All the horrible, mean things, disrespectful things that I've said about him over the years, I apologize for.
I don't know that there was another card out there that he could have gave you, unless there is an unknown version of a leaf lemon that has not ever been discovered. I don't know that there would be anything else that he could have gave you that would have been better. So, yeah.
Well, there is a test issue, and speaking of lemons, my understanding is there are like printing plate one-of-ones out there. Imagine if someone had some of those, and those may wind up in Eric's position at some point. If only. Like, it's just a hypothetical. Just throwing out a hypothetical. Like, I know nothing about nothing. Nothing about nothing.
No more.
Ungrateful swine. And that was this edition of Eric is an Ungrateful Swine. Now he's got to be nice to Eric.
Congrats, Eric. And Brad, if you happen to have time to listen, that's awesome, man. That it really I'm gonna take the moment, and Eric, we said this before, but it's cool when people can create a community and build a community and help bond friendships and stuff to that level. Not because of the value of the card or anything like that, but there's a significance beyond like the card itself. Just that friendship that's been formed, and whether Eric wants to claim him as a friend or not, that goes back to the whole thing we were talking about earlier with your your credibility in the hobby. That's not spoken a lot of in the hobby, about the friendships and the bonds that are made and everything, and how it's all formed, and maybe even who like started or helped being involved in the creation of it. So Brad, shout out to you, and Eric, congratulations, sincerely.
Thank you. I have said many times that I would never own one. I can't justify taking that kind of money out of my family's account, especially with a kid in college, and to put it towards something like that. And I just always said, that'll be the one missing piece in my ore collection, because I have every other card of his. And I was fine with that. And I was in utter shock and disbelief. And it was funny because the way it went down was, we were having a conversation at dinner, and somehow, I don't even know how we got there, the Bob Orr card came up, and I went, well, I know I'll never own one, but that's okay. And all of a sudden, the smile came across his face that I've never seen before, and he reaches into his back pocket and does this big windmill and went, "Here you go."
You know why that smile was there, though, right?
Yeah,
As
yeah.
much shit as you give Brad, and I don't know him as well as you guys do. I've met him before, in Atlantic City, but you can tell his personality. Like,
Yeah.
he got joy not for trolling you. He got joy to be able to present it to you, and give you that, I guess, give you that joy. And he also knew that there was probably a touch of spitefulness there, as much shit as you give him, that he could hold that and dangle it like the little carrot in front of you, be like, hey, remember that? So there was probably a little bit of that there
Yeah,
too, but he
probably
just seems like that genuine guy that, like,
the best.
he got happiness from being able to pass that on and knew what it was going to mean to you. And there's people like that in this space, believe it or not. Crazy enough, but
Yeah, there's a few of them. I got a handful of gifts from people, and I gave some out. Um, I did some favors for some people, and I mean, that's what it's all about. But I'm looking around, and Bobby gave me things, Carlos gave me things, Yannick gave me things. Um, you know, um, I had something I wanted to give Josh. I mailed something off this morning while I was in Canada to name, to give him. Paul gave me something. It's just, there's a lot of fun to be had in this hobby when you start making the connections. And it's pretty cool.
And to Brandon's point, I did enjoy trolling him. That's not even like right from the get go, right from the beginning, right from that moment that I grabbed the camera and pictured it. Again, sage words of wisdom, Eric. And then of course, when he posted it on Instagram, and I said, and I basically said to Brad, congratulations. But then also I said to Eric, you're welcome.
Yeah. He's a class act, that Carlos.
Listen, man of peace. I'm many things, including a man of peace. I'm also a man who will not miss it out. Did I mention the Billy story already? I am a doctor, so I can twist a knife with surgical precision. I can twist it in ways that did you even realize that was a thing that you could twist a knife in? I know where you can twist it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The comment, because I wrote all those heartfelt thank yous, and Carlos's comment is, all that said, you're welcome.
Indeed. Indeed. That was heartfelt. I felt it right here. Right here. You're welcome. Indeed. I will never miss an opportunity, Brandon. There is no time.
I said congratulations. I mean,
Right.
maybe not in the way you expected, but I did have that in my sentence.
Yeah.
I don't have this problem. There is no time. I come from. I mentioned this on the Friday Live. I come from a long line of jerks. We're really good at it. Like, you guys, y'all don't understand. It's my great grandfather would come down and be like, no, if I did anything less. And I will not disrespect. I will not disrespect that lineage by doing anything less. Never even dream of it. Never even think about it.
No, you would not dream of it. No way.
Never. But yes. So yeah, so amongst other things, Eric wound up with two Bobby yours. One like a grail of the hobby, an icon of the hobby, and the other one the minor league card. Pretty good haul. Not bad. So I think that's a good chunk of it. Did get a chance to have a little bit of the story. We did have a good discussion on that. I'm trying to think. I want to make sure though. Friday we'll be able to expand on it a little bit because of course Bobby will be able to chime in. I don't know if Yannick will be there, but if he is, obviously he can share because he actually got a really nice set of cards. Actually really cool. If you're into the pre-war hockey persuasion, he was able to chip away at quite at one of his checklists that he was shooting for. So if he gets a chance to come on, he can definitely share that as his piece.
Also has one of the most unique Marcel Dion pieces in existence. He was able to get and have signed one of the absolute most unique Marcel pieces in the world. And I'm sure he'll be able to talk about that and show that off. But thanks to Marcel for helping us out with that. Being a friend of the channel, and one of the greatest hockey players to ever put on skates.
Mm-hmm. And few people know, per Eric, the first person to get an NBA 3-pointer. Your story.
He's that good. And when you see,
it's incredible.
And when you see what this piece is on Friday, if Yannick joins us,
yes,
you might go,
maybe a multi-sport athlete.
Maybe he could have scored the first 3-pointer in NBA history.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. So we'll start winding her down on that. Fun episode. We got through a lot of ground. I twisted a lot of knives. I looked down upon the card peasants and told them you're welcome, Eric. But aside from that, is there anything else though, in general, in high level thing that we wanted to touch on? Because there was a lot. Obviously, we didn't even touch on any of the autograph stuff, and I think we can spend a little time on Friday. So since Eric spent a lot of time with that, we can touch on that more on Friday. But is there anything else like high level?
This question always comes about. So y'all have said that the attendance was good. You spoke about the influencer crowd coming. But there's always a question or at least a topic that comes up when discussing the shows. And you had mentioned some of the pieces you were looking for. The prices were a little excessive. But you've also mentioned many times throughout the show of how dealers were willing to negotiate a bit and you were able to get some deals done. What were prices like? Because I think this show has a different presence than most that we see or get information from here in the States, because it is counterbalanced towards the hockey side, which my interest is Fanatics they didn't have a presence at this show. They didn't attend to my knowledge. Yep, they don't have a hockey influence. Do you see a better balanced market in terms of, like, we obviously know the Bedard prices have inflated a bit, but do you see it? And Carlos, you're more obviously in tune with what the basketball and football and baseball and all that's doing right now. But does it seem like it's more of even with the Bedard, do you see things kind of as a better balance for, I guess, availability and reasonability?
So I think, I'm glad you brought up that question, so thank you for that, because it also leads me into a story. So let me touch on answering the question and also leads me to a story. So thank you for mentioning. That's why I was hoping, Eric, that something would trigger a memory on something specific that I wanted to touch on. And I actually have it queued up as well, so I can do it now. For the most part, the prices in a lot of dealers, unlike commonly available stuff, most of them understood and fell in line. Because, look, you can do whatever you want. You can charge anything you like. But if you charge a price that no one in the right mind will pay, well, then you paid for the table and you're going to sit there with a museum. Good luck. Have a good time, you know.
Enjoy.
If you're some of the dealers did that anyway, but most of the dealers. So I just use that example. So when I was there at that booth, the one guy could have tried to get cute with this and tried to hold the line on it for like 10 or 20 bucks. But it's like, no, you're bundling with the rest of it. No, he literally was like, you're making a good point. So I agree. You're right. So, make it a bundle thing and then adjust the price. That's the correct move. Because at the end of the day, then you're getting the cash and then you can do other things if you want. When we get a chance to do the AMG thing, I'll be able to give more detail on the one card that was pulled and that had been pulled previously. If you follow the AMG channel, you'll know which card it is based on that description. A big card that was pulled that then became part of a deal, cash trade sale. But when we get into it, I will share with you a story of what happened with the card after the transaction as well, because I can actually tell you what happened with that back end of that. So I'll be able to share that with you a little bit more. So most of the dealers that actually did any business that did not have a quote unquote bad show, and for the most part, the dealers seem to have a pretty decent show because there was enough foot traffic.
I asked every single one that I did business with, how's your show going? And either very good, great, or today's a little slow, but I killed it on Friday, or whatever,
Yeah.
So there wasn't one of them that went, no, did nothing. I'm getting killed, everyone seemed happy with how their weekend was going overall.
Yeah. So there were deals to be made. So it's one of those things where if somebody's being serious and they are professional and they know what they're doing, there were deals to be made. You just had to find the right combination and find the people that wanted to do those deals. So part of the reason I wanted to mention, and again, thank you for bringing it up, was that one of the tables, which had a variety of fantastic stuff. I'm not going to call out the dealer of the table because I've done deals with them before. It is possible. But then, mileage may vary. It depends on who you're talking to and the time that you're asking. So I actually saw a couple of nice Medano cards on there. One of them was way out of my price range. We're not even going to talk about that one. But there was another one that I actually had the cash in my pocket to be able to do the deal if we came to a number. And it was a prime kind of patch Medano, 2013-ish era, 12, 13. And they had the prime. That was right at the end of Panini's run with hockey. And they were, I think, starting to move out some of their game-used material. And on one of those products, Panini Prime, you basically had this gigantic patch piece. So it's literally part of the letter. It's like a Letterman, but it's a game-used piece. It's very nice. It was from Medano. And I think they had a $350 sticker on it. And again, if you want to do it in the US dollars, take off about 35, almost 40%. You can figure out what that would cost would be. But I'm looking at a $350 sticker. And I'm interested. But it's one of those things where I have game used cards, I have Letterman type cards, I have all that stuff. It's not an autograph. I'm really into the autographs now for the most part when I'm picking up pieces. Although some of these low numbered parallels and stuff from playing days. The important part is playing days. This is a post playing days piece. So yes, game used, but post playing days. I'm less interested in post playing days unless it's a smoking deal. If it's a smoking deal, then so be it, whatever. This was like an out of 10, but this is, playing era. These are all playing eras. Medano was still playing when all these cards were being manufactured. So that's more interesting to me. This one goes beyond his playing days, but it is a game use piece. It's a nice card. So I think I offered like, what was it, 280? And obviously I expect them to come back at me, but they basically said 325. And I'm like, $25 on a $350 card. All right, I'll think about it. I'll let you know. So basically I walk away from that. But they were trying to hold the line on it. So I get it. I'm not offended by it, but it just wasn't worth that to me. So that's kind of the way that I looked at it. However, what it did do is I said, okay, well, I would have been willing to, like I said, pay somewhere probably in the low 300s, maybe, knock $50 off and we probably got a deal done. But I said, okay, well, if I'm not going to pick that up, then maybe I'll make an offer on a card that I've been watching on eBay for a while. And I showed it on the live, but I'll share it here so Brandon can see it as well. And I'll quickly go through what this is. So this is an 0910 honorable numbers patch auto from the Cup. So this one has been on eBay for some time. I know the dealer is based out of Quebec, and I've done business with them before, and I know that they're willing to take offers and can negotiate a little bit. But very nice card, on card autograph, game used patch piece. This one's numbered to 9, so it's all there as far as that. And this is actually the Jamie Benn rookie year as well. So this is also a playing days Medano. This is playing days. So this is last year in Dallas and Jamie Benn's rookie year. So that was the year they crossed over, the two PCs I have kind of. And I like the card. It's a clean design, clean aesthetic. It's got the nice autograph on there. It's got the game used element to it. And it's numbered to 9. It's a tough card. Some of those have started to dry up a little bit. I was able to get a fair price on this one. So if you guys check Terra Peak or whatever, I think I ended up offering 550 Canadian for it. And they accepted. And then it's in Canada, so it'll ship directly to me, and I'll be able to get that card in hand and without any extra charges beyond obviously taxes, standard. But I was happy with the deal I made, and basically I took the $300 that I would have put in, I put it towards this card indirectly. That's basically what I ended up doing. So I just said, all right, well, instead of that, I'll just buy this other card that I've been eyeing for a while, and basically I had the cash there to be able to do it. So that was another pickup for me. So it kind of worked out in that sense. But for the most part, dealers were willing to deal with you. It was just trying to find the stuff that was interesting enough that it felt like it was worth taking the money out of my pocket for. Because if I just wanted to buy stuff for the sake of buying stuff, stuff that was on the checklist, but maybe that I wasn't as excited about, I could have gone to dozens of tables and bought stuff off the table. That would have been very easy to do. So for the most part, I was just looking.
I actually think that's something that getting back in the seat of like focus, I guess is the best way to say it. You have your Medanos, but then you have a few other things that you play with, your AEWs, you got some vintage in there, some other star stuff or whatever. Eric, he knows what he likes. And I noticed this last show at Chantilly, like you can go around and look at stuff and there's things that'll catch your eye or you might think is cool or whatever. But it's really nice now to be able to walk away from that stuff and just be like, that was cool. Whereas before, I know that I would allow myself to be like, that's really cool. And then like go after it. Like, oh, what's your price on that or whatever. And just to be able to focus on only looking to buy things that fit into what I'm trying to do now was so much more enjoyable because you can still go around and appreciate all the stuff without needing to feel like you got to take your wallet out for all of it, and on the flip side of it, it can also get a little frustrating because you're going to a show and you may not find anything, or if you do find something you want, and the reason I brought this up now is because you didn't allow being at the show and the limitation of trying to stay in a lane to persuade you in paying more than you wanted on that card. You still were able to take your show dollars, and even though you moved them outside of the show experience to eBay, you found something that you felt was better fitting and something that you've obviously been wanting also, and moved it there. And I think that's part of just as a collector realizing that you don't have to buy because it's there in front of you. Buy something that you really, really want that's going to fit in, especially if the price isn't right. So props on that. And for anyone out there, if you're listening and you allow yourself to run circles and down all over the place, it's that can be fun, but it also can be, I guess, less feeling of accomplishment maybe, because you wind up with stuff, like you have a rainbow of stuff, but when you start plucking pieces in a more focused sense, you start feeling like you're accomplishing something, if that makes any sense.
For sure. And one thing I'll add, just at the end here, just as we were tailing off, is that, and maybe this could be a conversation, an expanded conversation for a sub follow-up episode, is that specifically the reason why that deal came about on the eBay one was that I had been planning at some point to make an offer on it. I like the card, obviously. I'm a big fan of the cup cards. I like those. So for me, it was going to be like, I want to make an offer on this. That's something I'd like to do, but it's just a matter of finding the right place and the right time. with the Expo there, I had a budget available for stuff that I was going to go after. And if I needed to reach and grab some more, I could. But I pretty much had the budget available for what I wanted to do. But when I went into the Expo, and this is something that maybe not everybody does, but I'll just tell you guys here, I specifically had the mandate personally where I said, this is the budget I got. The budget more than covers this card. I can buy this card and still buy stuff at the card show. But I said the only way that I'm pulling money out of this where I could otherwise have purchased that card or made an offer on the card is if I see something that blows me away. I need something at that card show that is worthy of me deferring the offer that I want to make on this other card for it. If I see that thing or it's a smoking deal and absolutely I got to make this happen, or even if it's a card that maybe I can flip or whatever and make a couple bucks on, then that's fine too. But if I see the right thing and it's a smoking deal, then I'm making the deal on the floor. That's kind of playing to Brandon's point. If I see that deal on the floor, I will make that deal on the floor. I will hand over the cash without even a qualification. But because I did not, in the course of a couple of days, looking around at all the tables, see that deal was not in play. I was still able to get some nice stuff. To me, like I said, we showed it. But this card, to me, is a really awesome pickup.
Sweet.
Love this. Love this one.
Yeah.
So
great.
that was a great
and that's
find.
LeBron's rookie year too.
Yeah, that to me was a great find on the table, and it's one that I would have loved, and it's one that I wanted in general. Like just it was, and these are out of 33. These are actually pretty tough to find. So it's one of those ones where I saw it, and this is a card I would love to have picked up otherwise anyway. So the fact it was on the table, I was able to bundle it with other stuff, made it even better. So great. That's something that I'm taking the money out of the pocket for. We're gonna pay for that, and we're gonna buy it right here, right now. Take care of that business. But if I don't see the thing, then yeah, we can allocate those funds elsewhere. So what happened was the money that was left over basically was put back in, going to be put back in the account, and it's going to pay for that other card. So in the end, the result is the same. I still get a great card out of the deal. It's just deferred a little bit while they ship it out to me. And it's from a dealer that I've done business with before, and they're good. I should have no issue getting my stuff in hand. So I'm still going to get the cool card. I just didn't get it at the show. And it was just because this one guy, wanted to squeeze for a little extra. Indirectly, it saved me some money and gave me the funds to throw into this other thing that I'm going to enjoy having in the collection anyway. That would have been a nice to have. This is one that I've been eyeing for a while. So we're all making choices. We're constantly in the hobby. We're making choices. If we can't have everything and we can't just throw all the money at it, then, you can have A or you can have B. You can't have both. You can decide which one is more interesting to you. And in this case, I offered the card show the opportunity to show me something that will get me off of A. In this case, they didn't show me that, so I ended up purchasing A instead of B. So I think it works out. So that's hopefully that's kind of a takeaway maybe for folks when they go to it. Just because it's there on the floor, you don't necessarily have to buy it. Unless it's a total must-have. If it's like a grail piece and you got to have it, then do what you got to do. When you find a 77, 78 Peachy Bobby Orr, and you're going to take it over to KSA,
lay it on a dinner table,
and lay it on a dinner table and give it to Ungrateful Swine, then God damn it, you make that deal. You don't even question it. It is fate. It is destiny. And on that bombshell, destiny. On that bombshell, we'll leave you with this one. Episode 102 of the BIC podcast. This was a full episode. I did a little truncated episode where you can find out about cards. I would check out 101. I got to have a lot of fun with cards, and I told Eric all about cards. Some Bobby Orr cards.
Yeah, we don't like the letter R here.
No, you don't. Seriously, folks, watch that episode. I have a lot of fun in the tail end of it. I give a little update on the Brian Gray thing, but then at the tail end of it, I watch a video from the early 90s. I kind of dated it to the early 90s. It's the early 90s, and it was the Greater Boston, blah, 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 the Shriner Show, basically, from the early 90s. And by the way, you will see some notable hobby notables there. 707 Sports Cards were there, flashing a 52 tops, like it's a 77 O-Peachy Orr. Very exciting. Woo, it was crazy. Mr. Mint, Al Rosen was there, made a cameo appearance on that one. Fun. And then you've got all the locals giving their flavor in interviews and some fancy schmancy Boston accents. We got some proper accents in there. Isn't that right, Eric?
We're not proud of it.
Indeed. Anyway, so that's it for me. Brandon, Bobbles and Bar Cards, known associate of 540 Flips, Sanderson Orr, owner of not one, but two Booby Orrs. Maybe you should get like a rotating panel, like get like a rotating like thing. All the fancy cards just rotating around on the desk. Look at that. Amazing. It's basically this. It's practically a spinning image. And basically, market value is basically the same. Grails. Hashtag Grails. It's all hashtag Grails. Incredible. So send your hate to Sanderson Noor and tell him what a ungrateful swine he is. Because he is. He 100% he is. And also, hold on. I want to make sure before we leave, one more thing we're going to include in here. Hold on. And he'll appreciate this. I think it's very important here.
Types. I don't like it when he types.
Boom. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
BFF of Brad Harlan cannot be denied. Any last words then, Eric? Or you can take us out. Last words for your new best friend, Brad Harlan.
Brad Harlan is the best.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. More fun and shenanigans on the Friday live stream. Also, check out the AMG collectibles because Steve, Collector of the Scalps, Collector of People, will run us through a sweet deal. A sweet cash and trade deal that he was able to put together on the AMG floor. We'll get some stories from them from the card booth, both buying and selling. So they did some buying and selling, and they were able to get a lot of stuff done. Again, I had some fun there while that was going on at the show. Was able to hang out for a lot of that. Some of the stories cannot be told. There is actually a story involving a Bobby Orr 6667 that is not my story to tell. But it was quite the interesting and harrowing tale, a shocking tale that may shock and amuse, but it's not my story to tell. If we're able to bring it up, then we'll talk about it. Otherwise, listen, the point is there's a lot of excitement going on there. A lot of things happening, a lot of craziness. But we'll talk about that more on Friday Live or the subsequent episodes from here. So that's it for us this time around. Thanks very much, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Thanks, guys.